She says she's been homeless for nearly 2 years,
I got hit in the head.
mending this week from an attack at a homeless camp.
Came in.
I have 2 kids. I have a husband. He got deported for drinking and driving. Choices are mine.
If you had 3 wishes, what would they be?
First, to have a place. Second, to have my kids back.
Heat. It is the first thing you notice and the last thing you escape. In the back streets of the American South, the heat is not just weather, it is a physical weight. It presses down on the chest, turning the simple act of breathing into a labor. But the heat is only the backdrop to a much more profound struggle. Imagine growing up in a community where opportunity was a myth and survival was the only inheritance. Picture a childhood where your best friend is shot in the back before they finish high school, a casualty of a neighborhood neglected by the world. Imagine a mother forced into the shadows of street work just to put food on the table. This is the reality for thousands, a reality where a husband can be deported for a single mistake, leaving a family fractured. When asked if you had 3 wishes, what would they be? The answer is not wealth or fame. The answer is heartbreakingly simple. First, to have a place of my own. Second, to have my kids back. Welcome to Homeless US News. Here, we step past the statistics and the headlines to look into the eyes of the crisis sweeping across America. Today, we are in the Lone Star State. Texas is a land of legends, built on the promise of industry and the belief that determination alone can secure a future. But in the shadows of its gleaming skylines, a different story is being written. In 2024 and heading into 2025, more than 27,000 people across Texas slept without shelter on any given night. This is an increase of over 8% from the year prior, according to point-in-time data and the Texas Homeless Network. From the sidewalks of Austin to the underpasses of El Paso, bodies rest, break down, and quietly disappear from daily notice. Addiction tightens its grip. Fatigue dulls judgment. Survival replaces planning. This is not just a story about homelessness. This is a story about the heartbeat of Texas, reminding us how thin the line really is between stability and the street. Stay with this story until the end, because what unfolds here is closer to your own life than it appears. The crisis is not just about them, it is about us. Part 1. The Landscape of Survival. What is really happening in the sprawling heart of Texas? While vibrant cities pulse with energy and endless horizons promise possibility, a quieter, more desperate struggle unfolds on the pavement below. It is the daily reality of homelessness that strips away the simple comforts. Most take for granted a locked door, a soft bed, a glass of cold water, leaving thousands to carve out an existence on unforgiving streets. These are not faceless figures moving in the periphery of our vision. They are neighbors, veterans who served under the flag, parents who once held steady jobs, and dreamers caught in life's unforgiving turns. Their worlds have been reduced to the harsh rhythm of survival. On Homeless US News, we peel back this veil, showing how economic tides and shifting supports converge to heighten vulnerabilities. The scale of the issue jars the senses. According to data projections for 2025 and 2026, Texas grapples with nearly 28,000 individuals experiencing homelessness. While some metrics suggest a decline in specific areas, the reality in urban centers tells a different story. In Fort Worth, the local reports noted an 11% rise, bringing the number to over 2,100 people in Tarrant County alone as of May 2025. Further west, in El Paso County, the Coalition for the Homeless updates pegged the count at around 1,300. This number blends the unique dynamics of the border with the statewide strains that push more lives into the open. This reality bites deep. It is sprawled on cracked pavements under the relentless sun. When you sleep on concrete, the body aches from the unyielding hardness. Sleep is fractured, never deep, constantly interrupted by the hum of traffic and the primal fear of intrusion. There is the endless shuffle from one spot to another, dodging law enforcement while clutching faded belongings in plastic bags. Hunger gnaws constantly as meals become sporadic acts of charity rather than guaranteed sustenance. There is a soul-weary isolation to being overlooked, dignity frays like worn clothes in the wind. Each dawn brings not renewal, but another layer of quiet desperation. Living adrift on sidewalks means constant exposure to the elements and to the sting of judgment from strangers' glances. It is the erosion of self as hygiene slips away because public restrooms are locked or inaccessible. It is the profound ache of belonging nowhere in a state so vast. Have you ever thought about how fragile the line to such hardship truly is? A lost paycheck, a medical emergency, a sudden eviction. The shared threat of vulnerability softly calls us to empathy. We must look at this landscape not with judgment, but with the understanding that we all hold a piece in mending these gaps. Part 2. The Illusion of Order. In the polished glow of Texas's bustling metropolises, where pristine avenues and iconic landmarks draw crowds of tourists and commerce, city officials often face a choice. It is a heartbreaking choice that frequently prioritizes a city's visual allure over the lives of those clinging to fragile existences on its fringes. The priority becomes sweeping away makeshift havens without mercy to maintain an image of order. Municipal crews descend on encampments with notices, trucks, and heavy machinery. They uproot tents and scatter belongings in the name of cleanliness and public safety. They force souls, already battered by circumstance, to scramble into the unknown, policing poverty rather than solving it. As the urban facade is restored, the human cost is ignored. This is not mere maintenance. It is a systemic tilt that favors aesthetics over empathy, amplifying the raw vulnerabilities of life without roots. At Homeless U.S. News, we tenderly probe this disparity. We unveil how such clearances fracture spirits, turning temporary refuges into memories of loss and relentless displacement. The toll emerges in stark numbers. In Austin, a significant encampment cleanup surge in late 2025 cleared hundreds of sites across the city. Yet, preliminary results showed only a fraction of those displaced found immediate aid or shelter. This highlights the inefficiency of force over support. More jarringly, reports indicate that the city expended over $830,000 on these operations in a single month. Despite this massive expenditure, only 181 individuals were successfully relocated to shelters. This underscores how vast resources yield minimal humanity when the strategy is displacement rather than placement. Meanwhile, homelessness counts in the area continue to exceed 2,500. The human agony unfolds vividly during these sweeps. Imagine being lulled into a semblance of security under a tattered tent, the only private space you have left in the world. You awaken to the sound of bulldozers rumbling near. Hands grasp at scattered possessions: a photograph, a warm coat, vital medication, as everything familiar is hauled away into dump trucks. Then comes the desperate scramble to find new shadows, feet pounding sore pavements, voices rising in futile cries, declaring, "This is all I have." Met with indifferent protocols, the isolation that follows is crushing. Displaced individuals end up huddled in alleyways as rain pelts down, dignity dissolving as hope withers under rejection. Have you ever reflected on how one sudden sweep could shatter your sense of safety? This common thread of precariousness gently reminds us of our intertwined fates. When we value a clean sidewalk over a human life, we lose something essential in our collective character. Part 3. The Economic Avalanche. Beneath the surface of Texas's dynamic landscape, the roots of homelessness dig deep. They are tangled in a web of personal setbacks, financial strains, and systemic blind spots that quietly unravel lives. These are not abstract market forces. They strike at the core of ordinary people, turning stable routines into chaotic drifts across streets and alleys. On Homeless U.S. News, we trace these origins with care. We unveil how intertwined factors create cycles of displacement, compelling individuals to endure the stark realities of existence without shelter. The breadth of the issue is profoundly unsettling. As revealed in the Texas Homeless Network's 2025 annual report, over 62,000 Texans navigated some form of homelessness in the previous year. This figure is swelled by a 15% increase in evictions tied to economic shifts and inflation. In areas like McKinney, Part of the affluent Collin County, local counts show hundreds affected, often sparked by sudden job losses that cascade into lost housing. A car breaks down, a job is lost because of lack of transport, rent is missed, and the eviction notice arrives. It is a domino effect. Waco echoes this crisis, where rising costs and health crises push families into the open. This convergence breeds raw hardships. Shuffling along sun-scorched sidewalks with all worldly goods in a tattered bag becomes the daily routine. The body protests with every step, from blistered feet and sleepless nights. There is the gnawing void of uncertainty where meals are begged or skipped. Hygiene becomes a luxury snatched in public restrooms, often leading to infections and further social ostracization. The isolation of being adrift amid thriving crowds is psychological torture. Dignity is chipped away by judgmental stares from those who believe homelessness is simply a result of laziness. Hope flickers like a dying ember. Living without roots means constant erosion. The chill of abandonment seeps in. The profound sorrow of dreams deferred in a land of endless sky weighs heavy on the heart. Have you ever wondered what overlooked twist could tip your own balance? A divorce? A diagnosis? A recession? As revelations build, we see that the homeless population is not a separate species of human. They are simply people who ran out of safety nets. Part 4. The Chemical Chain. In the dim glow of a Texas dawn, under the vast sky that seems indifferent to human frailty, countless souls wrestle with an invisible foe. It often starts as a whisper of solace, a way to numb the pain of an injury or a trauma, but grows into a roaring storm. Think of a weary father in Travis County. Once holding a steady job, he is now huddled in the shadows of an alley. His body trembles not just from the cold, but from the relentless pull of addiction that began with painkillers prescribed after a back injury. This battle is not abstract. It is the raw, heart-wrenching struggle of real people. Their days are consumed by the desperate chase for relief, only to wake up emptier, more alone, with the world spinning further out of reach. At Homeless U.S. News, we approach this subject with compassion. We reveal how substance challenges do not just alter minds, they shatter lives. They turn vibrant individuals into ghosts of their former selves, wandering streets where every corner holds a temptation or a memory of loss. The truths emerge starkly in recent reports. Data from 2025 discloses that 1/3 of those experiencing homelessness in Texas actively contend with alcohol or drug issues. This number balloons to 2/3 when accounting for lifelong encounters with substance abuse. These figures stun because they mean over 9,000 people statewide are ensnared right now in a chemical prison. Their paths to recovery are blocked by scarce resources, particularly in rural pockets where rehab centers are non-existent or prohibitively expensive. In some communities, methamphetamine involvement has soared to 40% among homeless adults. This shocking accessibility funnels hundreds more into the streets annually, as addictions erode employment and lead to heartbreaking evictions. Meanwhile, those without shelter face triple the risk of deepening substance ties. It becomes a coping mechanism for the trauma of the street. If you are freezing, high, and hungry, a substance that makes you forget the cold and the hunger becomes a tool of survival, even as it kills you. These are not mere numbers. They whisper of profound anguish, the sweat-soaked nights fighting cravings that claw at the soul, the hollow ache of hunger mixed with withdrawal's fire, the quiet sobs in hidden spots where dignity slips away. Addiction strips away layers of humanity, leaving behind exhaustion, the sting of judgmental glances, and the deep sorrow of lost connections creates a loneliness that feels unbreakable. What if life's pressures led you to this edge? Might it be closer than you think? This gentle musing reminds us of our shared fragility, inviting a quiet commitment to see one another with kinder hearts. It is not about enabling, it is about understanding that recovery is impossible without stability. Part 5. The Affordability Gap. Across the wide-open spaces of Texas, where economic growth paints pictures of success, a harsh divide emerges. It is the rising tide of living costs that sweeps away the basic security of a home for far too many. This leads to evictions that scatter lives onto sidewalks and underpasses, where the weight of uncertainty becomes a constant companion. This affordability gap does not just displace, it unravels the fabric of normalcy. It forces individuals to adapt to a world stripped of walls and doors. Their days are marked by the endless search for a safe spot amid the bustle of a state that moves forward without them. On Homeless U.S. News, we delve into this quiet crisis, revealing how the lack of reachable housing turns resilience into a daily survival test. The data delivers a jolt. As outlined in housing reports from 2025, Texas confronts a massive shortfall of over 665,000 affordable units. For low-wage earners, this creates a landscape where only 25 homes are within reach. For every 100 families hovering near poverty's edge, the math simply does not work. In the vibrant Dallas metro area, rents have climbed 20%, far outpacing wages. This triggers thousands of evictions and fuels a 12% spike in homelessness over the year. These figures underscore an invisible epidemic, where financial pressures quietly push lives into the margins without warning. We are seeing a rise in the working homeless, people who have jobs, who put on uniforms every day, but who return at night to a car or a shelter because their paycheck cannot cover the deposit and rent of an apartment. The struggles unfold in raw, unspoken ways. Bodies huddle against cold concrete as night falls. The persistent ache of hunger mixes with exhaustion from constant movement, the isolation of watching others head to warm homes, while one's own world shrinks to a backpack's contents, is devastating. Without shelter, simple acts like resting without fear or maintaining personal hygiene become battles. This fosters a profound sense of loss that seeps into every moment. It is the quiet erosion of hope, the sting of invisibility in crowded streets, the unrelenting vulnerability that wears down the spirit like sandpaper on skin. It is a reality where dignity clings by threads amid the ceaseless hum of a society that overlooks these hidden pains. Have you ever reflected on how close any of us might be to such instability? A rent hike of $200 could be the breaking point for thousands. This shared fragility calls us to a gentle awareness. Recognizing our interconnected lives inspires quiet acts of support that strengthen the whole. We must advocate for housing that is reachable, not just for the wealthy, but for the workers who build the city. Part 6. Cries that don't reach the boardroom. In the structured confines of Texas's policy arenas, where strategies are debated and resources distributed, a profound silence often prevails. It is the absence of direct input from those enduring homelessness. These are the experts of their own experience, whose lived realities could illuminate the most effective paths forward. This gap manifests in quiet oversights, where well-intentioned plans miss the nuances of street-level realities. It leaves individuals to contend with systems that feel distant, bureaucratic, and unresponsive. It is a subtle disconnect that amplifies the daily grind of survival. The lack of a home turns every interaction with services into a labyrinth of unmet needs and repeated explanations. On Homeless U.S. News, we gently uncover this layer. We show how unheard perspectives perpetuate cycles of instability. The revelations are eye-opening. While an estimated 62,000 Texans cycled through homelessness in the prior year, only a tiny fraction of key policy discussions incorporated first-hand accounts from those affected. This leads to initiatives that often prioritize broad metrics over personal insights. For example, requiring an ID to get a bed sounds reasonable in a boardroom. But on the street, where documents are stolen, lost in sweeps, or destroyed by rain, it is an insurmountable barrier. In Bexar County and San Antonio, reports highlight similar trends, with community input forums capturing minimal representation from homeless individuals. This results in hundreds being displaced annually without tailored follow-ups that could prevent recurrence. These oversights translate to tangible hardships. It is the weariness of navigating bureaucratic hurdles without advocacy. It is the isolation of sleeping rough while decisions about shelters are made in far-off rooms. It is the quiet frustration of programs that do not align with real-life barriers, like transportation. If a shelter is 10 miles away, and you have no car and no bus fare. The shelter might as well be on the moon. No fixed address means constant exposure. The bite of winter winds without refuge. The endless vigilance against theft of meager possessions. The deep-seated ache of feeling sidelined in one's own story. Hope dims under the weight of invisibility and unaddressed pain. Have you ever imagined your own needs go unvoiced in critical moments? This shared possibility encourages a collective mindfulness. Opening spaces for all stories nurtures a more compassionate framework for everyone. We need policies built on the pavement, not just in the office. Conclusion: a prayer for action. In the landscape of Texas's homelessness challenges, there is hope. Practical solutions are taking shape through thoughtful strategies that blend immediate relief with enduring empowerment. We are seeing bridges built from the edges of society back to its core. Houston's integrated approach has driven a stunning drop in homelessness over the last decade. By combining permanent housing with comprehensive services, they prove that housing first, giving someone a key before asking them to solve their addiction or employment issues works. In Austin, efforts to increase permanent housing options and emergency beds show the potential to shelter thousands who might otherwise face prolonged nights under open skies. But statistics are not enough. As this chapter draws to a gentle close, let us linger in a moment of heartfelt aspiration. May every individual in Texas and across the United States, touched by the shadows of homelessness, discover the comforting fold of communal care. May they find the steady inner resolve to step forward, and the welcoming gateways to lives rebuilt with purpose and peace, far from the grip of solitude. This is not idle wishing. It is the quiet catalyst for meaningful engagement. It is a call for us to look at the person on the corner, not as a problem to be solved, but as a human to be healed. What quiet prayer might you hold for those navigating similar paths? Knowing life's fragility binds us all, our humanity calls us to cherish every life as part of our own. As Homeless U.S. News concludes this exploration, the meaningful journey lingers. Reflect on its depth and carry it forward. If this message of hope, struggle, and the resilience of the human spirit touches your heart, please leave a like on this video. It helps these stories reach those who need to hear them. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters in this conversation. And most importantly, subscribe to Homeless U.S. News. Join us as we continue to shine a light on the unseen, to amplify the voices of the unheard, and to advocate for a future where everyone has a place to call home. Together, we can turn empathy into action. Thank you for watching.